introductions while we are waiting for other people to gradually join and jump in. Welcome everyone. My name is Danish Bhatti. I'm the chair for APPNA Merit for 2021. I'm a movement disorders neurologist at University of Nebraska Medical Center, and it's my pleasure to be here for this wonderful program. I'm looking forward to it. A lot that I need to understand and learn for this coming future of medicine and how I will be jobless in less than 10 years. So I need to be ready for that. So some house rules, these are APPNA Merit Healthcare Research and Innovation Landscape in Pakistan webinar series. And that has been going on for over 6 weeks now. And it has been a wonderful collaboration between APPNA Merit, which is the Medical Education, Research and Technology Transfer Committee for APPNA, and APPNA RISA Committee, which is Research, Education and Scientific Affairs Committee. These webinar series are accredited and approved for CME from ACCME. APPNA and Medco are collaborating and providing the CME credits for these activities. And we will be offering or issuing the CMEs once every quarter, so after every 12 weeks. And you're joining the webinar using the link through your email will count as your attendance. And if you were present for more than 45 minutes for the webinar, you'll be counted a credit for that CME for that session, and that we will work on after the quarter. These webinars are being done as a learning opportunity to enhance our understanding of the current field of research and innovation. And for that reason, we have invited many industry leaders as part of it. We are not supporting or promoting any particular organization or industry or a person. And these are learning opportunities only, and take it with a grain of salt. I invite all of you to submit your questions in the chat box as the webinar is going on. Use the Q&A box, use the chat box to introduce yourself and make any comment. We will provide the recording of these sessions on the YouTube. These are being also broadcasted live on Facebook, but the CME credits are only for those who join the Zoom meeting live. With all of those house rules out of the way, let me start with the invitation to our speaker for today. Our speaker, Shahrukh Babar, is co-founder and CEO of XYLEXA. He holds a degree in bioinformatics and an expert in artificial intelligence. He's a serial entrepreneur and dedicated towards providing healthcare solutions. XYLEXA is a multi-award winning healthcare company that offers artificial intelligence-based cloud applications that helps radiologists in early, accurate, and cost-effective decision support system. So it offers a variety of AI-based medical solutions, such as for breast cancer diagnosis, chest X-ray analytics, arterial surgical planning, and disease prediction through multi-omics data. So it's something that is a very fast-growing field of medicine. With that, let me invite Mr. Babar to make any further comments and then share his screen for the presentation. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Danish, and hope you can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for providing me this opportunity, and I'm really feeling so blessed being amongst, like you can say, healthcare tycoons, and definitely this will also be opportunity learning for me. And before starting, so thank you very much. You already have introduced myself. So like my, my passion is healthcare, and my degree is in bioinformatics. And during my degree, luckily, or you can say unluckily, I developed my expertise in medical side and artificial intelligence. So during my studies, I served oncology in local hospitals, in genetics labs. I developed some AI solutions for as university projects. And from there, I got, you can say, confidence and realized the importance of AI, and particularly importance of AI in the healthcare. And in today's, I will not take much time. And during this, my whole, you can say, talk, I will be mostly covering. I know you all people are, you can say, very well familiar with this healthcare ecosystem, with their medical imaging versus AI. So I assume there may be some participant those may have little bit knowledge or they may not have any knowledge about medical imaging. So I will try to cover a little bit about medical imaging, then AI, then what is CAT system, what's the benefits, and over experience, because we are serving Pakistan and now we are going global with this CAT system, and I will share our experience and what challenges we are facing, and how we are, you can say, catering those challenges. And I will share my experience. And in the end, definitely, I would love to introduce XYLEXA. And I feel this is the right platform. And I hope we can find a lot of collaborations, because a lot of people, like in this, you can say, a session, I feel they are doing really amazing work, and we're also doing really good work. So we can join hand together, and we can do, definitely we can collaborate. We find a lot of collaborations here. So I will start. First, definitely, uh, is medical imaging. So you people are very much familiar about the medical imaging. This is a technique or process like we take in. You can say, capture interior of the body for the clinical analysis and the medical intervention. And I know all of us, like you can say, many time has gone through for multiple imaging, and we have experienced a lot of, you can say, modalities in hospitals and etc. So there are many types of medical images. You people are very familiar. So for example, radiography. So it depends like what techniques they are using, and the purpose, and their medical imaging are being used in diagnostic purpose. They are being used in treatment planning or surgery planning, or you can say health analytics. So there are multi-purposes of this medical imaging. And radiography, like where they use the X-ray techniques to capture the internal organs on the digitally, or some in the remote areas where they have the traditional and the old technologies. They are using typical films there. MR images, they use magnetic field, ultrasound, you use a sound frequency which is beyond the human limitation. And so these are like endoscopy, like internal hollow, and they take through camera. So these are the different medical images, and currently like being used in healthcare industry in Pakistan and globally. So if you talk about the medical market, this is so big. Like even it, as per stats, 2019, 36 billion market it was total in the US dollar, and its annual growth rate is like 2026 5.8. Which is quite very high. There's a lot of scope, and there are a lot of companies coming in this domain. I will share like few good names, and one of them definitely like sitting among us. It's honor for us. And so before moving forward, so particularly I will go toward the challenge, like what are the challenges in currently in healthcare. Like I know, is because ultimately healthcare is very vast field, and no one can be expert in everything in it. So we feel like from the beginning we have been working in the artificial intelligence and the radiology and the bioinformatics. So I'm just taking this whole communication, this whole talk in those directions. So first, definitely, medical imaging, and medical imaging, like you can say, we capture medical imaging when the radiologist reads there. So before understanding that, and if you want to jump in this domain, so you must be very familiar with the radiology workflow. So I will superficially, I will introduce like what radiology workflow is. So basically, patient information comes from the radiology information system, which is connected with the EMR. Then a modality, it may be CT, MR, or FFDM. So any like modality which takes medical image, the modality will take, patient will come, they will take the medical image. That medical image will be stored in the DICOM format, that will be sent to the centralized archive. We call it picture archiving and communication system. So it will be stored there. So when radiologists will come on their workstation, so they will have access of all modalities through central database, which is called PAG. So they will be able to fetch data, and you can say report, and they can write the report and they can store, so that will be again stored in the PACS and risk system. So like in the future, if they want to re-evaluate any patient, so they can fetch the previous reports, previous data, and they can analyze that. So this is the conventional method. So conventionally, when they read with the naked eye, and like with the naked eye, like and they mark, you can say they make their surgery plan, they, you can say, diagnose, they write the report, and etc. So non-invasive this medical imaging saves millions of lives each year, because doctors can definitely detect and diagnose from cancer and appendix to cardiovascular, cardiac disease, and stroke, etc. So images is the large data source of data in the healthcare, and the sometimes, and this is the most challenging field for the diagnosis, for the detection of the disease sometimes, because still human eye always have limitations, and medical imaging still like they have a lot of limitations. So just because of these limitations, and human body and architecture is so complicated, and just because of these limitations, still the misdiagnosis and overdiagnosis rate is very high. And definitely, like currently, when radiologists, when physicians, you can say, has to rely on the medical report read by the overworked radiologist, and sometimes physician and clinicians, they read medical image themselves to just to make the decision, just to go for the second opinion. And it was technically, if I statistically, if I talk about, like 1 out of 4 medical imaging images or patients, they are, or radiology, like the radiologist, 1 out of 4, they read false positive. And this false positive definitely cause unnecessary and painful procedures, and definitely this adds a lot of cost to the patient, and this adds a lot of stress to the patient. And on the other hand, false negative rates are still very high, and you can say patients definitely, false positive rates the biggest problem. And like sometimes they miss, of course they miss the case, and definitely missing the case impact the devastating effect in the future. Because if patient is, for example, having some cancer, and it's missed by the radiologist, and it progress, and in the future it's, you can spread, you can say, across the different regions, and definitely that's the most devastating and the most harmful. So these are the different challenges currently, radiology, or you can say healthcare industry is facing, and patient, particularly patient, that is impacting their financially, is impacting they're compromising their health, they're compromising their lives. So here, the CAT systems comes in. So that's why, like, CAT, mostly CAT system are generally computer aided diagnostics. So it, there's a belief, maybe these CAT systems are coming to replace the radiologist, to replace the practitionist, and which I believe not true. Maybe I'm the advocate and for the CAT system. Maybe that's why I'm saying, like CAD system definitely use advanced image processing, advanced artificial intelligence algorithms. CAD system reads with the naked, you can say, on the pixel level. They find very complicated patterns from the pixel, so they can better, you can say, analyze the pixel on the pixel level. Because after like 3.5 or 4 year research, we found definitely in the medical imaging, sometimes visually we can't find much different, but when we go in the pixel, so through the some formulas we find some patterns, and these patterns within human eye, which is impossible to identify those patterns. So through image processing, through AI, so we develop the CAD systems. These CAD systems globally, from decade, they are serving the health industry, they are improving. And definitely the CAD, this particularly the global artificial intelligence diagnosis, the CAD system markets is 280 million, 288 million in like 2019, which is projected like during 2027 with annual growth rate is 32.3 million. So this is a massive adaptation toward the artificial intelligence, and the particularly the way like this is impacting the, you can say, population pressure or globally, because where we have very limited facilities, where we have very limited expert radiologists. So definitely we need assistance, just to just to increase the accuracy, and you can say reduce the reading time, and definitely like to make the flow more better and saves life. So that's why we are. This is the right era. This is the right time for adaptation for the CAD system. And luckily, hundreds of companies they are coming. They are using artificial intelligence image processing on the different medical imaging, and they are particularly they are specializing in a particular field. And like this is a very simple slide, so you can see here I'm just trying to you can say demonstrate how artificial intelligence work, particularly for those who are not, you can say, very pro in AI. So this is overview. So for example, if we look in this dog, so visually this looks like a dog to us, but the computer reads this with this in the form of pixels, in the form of numbers. So actually, when we train our AI model, so currently we train over layers, input layers, and over hidden layers in the neural network layers with the dog and with the cats, so with the label data. So actually we train, and the next time when we will give any unseen data to it, so it will go through these layers as per their understanding, as per their previous learning. So output layer will decide either this is dog picture or this is cat picture. So this is the same phenomena is with the medical imaging or in healthcare in CAD system is that. So we are already training over machine learning algorithms, over deep learning algorithms with the already labeled data, which is peer reviewed, which is biopsy proven, and definitely like our systems are learning and becoming more and more proficient. And definitely they learn from the pixels and the patterns that behind the images, pattern behind some abnormal regions. So they're learning based on those patterns. These complicated patterns definitely makes them more vigilant and more efficient in right decision making. So this is how actually AI is working. So uh, there are a lot of advantages of the CAD system currently, like they are serving. Particularly the very first, and no one can deny, as definitely this can produce results faster. This can, you can say, diagnose abnormality much faster as compared to the human being, and definitely is more consistent. And then radiologists, for example, it takes almost 15 years for a radiologist being specialist in any domain, for example in the breast cancer, in the chest x-ray, etc. So definitely we cannot replicate his knowledge. But the good thing is that definitely CAD system in AI model we can replicate, and we can make multiple copies of this learning or this training. Definitely like CAD system are facilitating in decision making, and helping where we have inexperienced radiologists. So it helps a lot them making a better decision making. Sometimes like definitely CAD systems automatically improve the radiology workflow, like placing more sensitive cases higher on the radiologist workflow. For example, here I would like to share one use case. In a Pakistan, so we are planning to, because in remote areas where we don't have facilities, particularly for breast cancer diagnostics. And unfortunately, Pakistan has the highest incident rate in the breast cancer in Asia. And we have the most aggressive form of breast cancer here. Women from 25 to 35, they are suffering from breast cancer in Pakistan. And unfortunately, that's spread very fast. So we are planning to launch with some local partners. So where because in the remote areas there is no facility where a patient can come, they can get the chest X-ray or the breast X-ray, and definitely there are no radiologists there. Even we don't have the basic practitioners there. Even there's no concept of radiologists or experienced radiologists there to serve that in remote areas. So we are planning to launch free mammography campaigns. So where mammography van will visit the remote areas, and they will perform you can say massive free mammography, and like because we don't need radiologists with them, so our system will be installed there. It will triage, and it will definitely like pick up the most sensitive cases, and it will send over the internet to the head office where one or two radiologists will be sitting, and they will be only cross verifying those cases. So in this way, definitely we can run very massive screening, breast cancer screening campaign in Pakistan, because which is much needed. And Alhamdulillah, now government, the way like Alexa is working, so government and local stakeholders recognize Alexa as helpful in this campaign. So we are planning on that. After COVID, just COVID is main problem definitely these days. So we launched in last October, and just because of this COVID, so like we had to restrict our movement and restrict our activities. So we are just waiting. Once COVID is, you can say, settle down a little bit, we will go with this practice. Definitely, machine have potential to improve diagnosis accuracy dramatically as compared to human being, because most of time as a radiologist, I feel sometimes my mood uh, maybe you can say affect my reporting my decision for the patient. So definitely like this is unbiased. CAD system is always unbiased. uh, these there are a lot of many advantages of the CAD system. So these are the practiced advantages, and definitely like there are a lot of challenges. And initially, like you said, like job security, and this is the biggest challenge I think in adaptation for the AI and adaptation for the CAD system. Not in Pakistan. I think this is a global challenge, but we face a lot in Pakistan, where mostly physician or radiologists they believe if this they implement this system, they install this system, this will you can say leave. They will have to leave. They will become jobless. I think like can try to convince them. Although like we have autopilot flights, and mostly like we travel a lot like globally, and mostly like flights go you can say fly in the autopilot mode, and in the cockpit definitely pilots are sitting there just enjoying and taking tea and food, etc. But as a human being, still like we believe as a human, and still we have pilots in the cockpit, definitely just for sake of human satisfaction. So I believe same with radiologists. For the human satisfaction, human can get better satisfaction from a radiologist, from the human being, as compared to the machine. So definitely like the devices, the FDA has some solid and some very challenging you can say liabilities on that. So you have to get FDA. So this is in the device 3, which is more difficult than the device 2 procedure. Definitely machine learning, you need a very well labeled data for the accurate labeling of accurate decision making or efficient decision making, uh, and labeling this huge amount of data, and peer review data, and accurate data is one of the big challenge definitely for this domain. Like these are very complicated, you need peer reviews data. So so there are a lot of and you have to cover different scenarios. So for example, in the medical imaging, so there is regions, different people, they have different anatomy somehow in the imaging. So you have to also cater different scenarios. You have to train your system on the different scenario. If you train your application, if you train your system on the same scenario, definitely it can work in the some circumstances. In some scenarios, it will cause it may be ineffective against some other scenarios. So here's Alexa come, and I would love to definitely talk a little bit about like the words Alexa and how we are helping not in Pakistan, and how we are motivated to help globally healthcare industry. So before moving forward, and one thing like as in Pakistan, because there is no computer aided diagnostics for the breast cancer has been purchased in any hospital in Pakistan, although we have very well reputed private hospitals and government hospitals already there. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, we lack practiced or experienced, dedicated radiologists. And as per need, because mostly radiologists they move abroad, so we have shortage of them. And Particularly, the third is awareness, because adaptation issue we face a lot of time, because in Pakistan they have not seen such solutions most of time. So there is a education or awareness issue in the healthcare industry in Pakistan. And the fourth, definitely no SOPs or no policy has been established for such solution yet, although GRAP and some other institutes, their stakeholders, they're trying to formalize some policies against it, and we are hoping soon this will be here. So there are a lot of challenges, and these challenges definitely makes this best uh, 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 best location for this opportunity, and this bring a lot of opportunities for the companies. They can come with the AI with the different solutions, and they can definitely, and affordability is definitely major challenge in Pakistan. And definitely you have to, if you counter these challenges, and this is open market for any player, and that's this we are taking leverage of that, and we will love to share like what actually XYLEXA is doing. Actually, XYLEXA is a medical imaging company leveraging art of artificial intelligence and helping and offering cloud-based software as a service, which helps radiologists in detection, diagnosis, and prediction of the breast cancer and some other diseases as well. So, like in the pipeline currently, like we have launched our breast cancer module, and I will more talk about this. So, this already have been post trials. We are in the post trial stage, and now we are this year we are also going for the FDA as well. Along with that, in a couple of weeks, we are launching our chest X-ray to cover 14 modalities, and along with that, recently we have been awarded grant from Pakistani government just to develop RTR surgery planning algorithms, AI based. They will definitely help uh, surgeons in right decision making and in surgery planning. They will help, and they will increase the accuracy definitely. And we are working with one of the best hospitals here in Pakistan, and best surgeon in Pakistan in a partnership with them. Along with that, like XYLEXA is also first multi-omic data R&D center in Pakistan. So we have bioinformatics PhDs, MPhil. So there we are working on the multi-omic data particularly, and our research identify some biological markers on based on those biological markers. So we are training our AI and machine learning algorithms, and particularly we are launching over in a Q3. We are planning to launch our beta application for our multi-omic data for cardiovascular prediction, for Alzheimer prediction, and for diabetes prediction. So, that's something we will take multi-omic data. When we talk about the multi-omic data, it's your genetics data, it's your physiome data, it's your clinical data, clinicom, etc. So we are taking all these data sets, and we are based on their biological markers. So we are training our AI and ML algorithms. So definitely, like here we are launching our breast cancer. So I will talk a little bit about the breast cancer. I will show you some demo, or like how the interface. Actually, one out of 8 women suffer from the breast cancer, and if breast cancer is diagnosed in the early stage, chances of survival 99%. Otherwise, chances of survival 20%, 27% or less, and cure is also very expensive. As per global stats, when radiologist reads the mammograms, and just imagine the number, like 300 million mammograms were performed last year, and more than 30% they are the misdiagnosed. Just imagine the misdiagnosed numbers. These misdiagnosed definitely leads death, and definitely on the other hand, like overdiagnosis that cause a lot of you can say unwanted biopsies, and cash burden, financial burden on the patients. So these are the big challenges. So just to overcome these challenges, so we have developed a complete radiology workflow. Our complete radiology workflow actually uh, it is a frontal DICOM viewer, which is with the complete tool sets a conventional radiologist needs for interpretation of any kind of image. And along with that, we also offer cloud packs. So if radiologists, they want a cloud packs and they want to access their data anywhere over the internet. So because this is a cloud based, so we offer also the cloud packs along with our AI analytics algorithms. So first we launched our breast cancer algorithm. So here you can see, so this is the resultant window. So actually when we upload the studies in our DICOM viewer, actually it automatically, when radiology, you can say modality, chest x-ray or breast mammogram perform, it automatically push toward the local packs, that push to our cloud application. Our cloud application will process and will send results to the local packs. When radiologists come and he opens the on the intranet, he opens this interface or DICOM viewer, which is a web based. So he will have access of the results images. The results image exactly mark where abnormalities are present, and if abnormality is a benign, so it turn into green. If it's a malignant, then it turn into red. So along with that, so we are also offering some like density, etc., and risk factor. You can also select the buy rate, and definitely when you radiologist can interpret the results, and he comes to the report, and it can also give the report generation. So this is our first algorithm. So which are like currently our accuracy is almost 93%, and now we are this year we are going for the FDA, and now we are working some more features in it. Basically, we have divided our product into two, B2B and B2C. Definitely for B2B, we will be selling to the hospitals. Hospital will take benefit of this application. Radiologists will take benefit of this application. Along with that, we are also working in the B2C because there is a huge market, untapped market. So because when now this is a digital era, and patients, when they go to the hospitals, they get their X-ray, so they get their CD of their images, and they also go for the second opinion. And we actually adopt this idea because after launching our application, so we received a lot of queries from the patient. They sent their images. They said, okay, we need second opinion from your application. So what you suggest, like is it the right report, or we should consult like third opinion as well. So actually we are also developing a patient portal, and where they can upload their images, so we can guide them. So what next step they should take, and how their medical imaging look like. So we are working on this module, and maybe in 2022 early we may launch. We are hoping to launch over this module as well. Okay, so this is the team behind it, like myself, Shahrukh, Babar, Shahid Abbasi, and Nida. So we have definitely I have domain expertise. I worked in oncology. I served healthcare industry in Pakistan in past. Now my expertise are in AI. Shahid takes care of the operations. Nida, she is already taking care of sales of the German company Envision information system in Pakistan and Middle East. So she has very more than 14, 15 years experience in selling in the healthcare. XYLEXA is in the like we have been working for more than 2.5 to 3 years, and we have achieved a lot of we have a lot of achievements. So we have a lot of partnerships, local, international as well, and we also won a lot of awards, local and international as well. So which actually encourage this technology and team. Like we are working in Pakistan, and we aim to serve Pakistan. That was a little bit about XYLEXA, and I think I won't take much time. And let's open the floor for Q&A. If someone have any question, that's it from my side.
So this is Dr. Sarwat Hussain. I was supposed to be the moderator, but my connection did not go through. I think you probably have been Mr. Shahrukh Babar. You have been introduced. If not, I can give a short introduction. Has Mr. Babar been introduced?
Yes, I read the introduction.
Okay, good, very good. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for starting in time. This is very, very, very exciting, and what work is being done is really pioneering work for Pakistan, especially in awareness, bringing awareness to our group about the importance and application of artificial intelligence. And of course, the task, a big task is bringing awareness in Pakistan, because still many of the doctors think that they will be, that this is an IT topic and not a medical topic. And we must realize that IT and artificial intelligence is a medium of producing services and enhancing the the delivery and the of medicine, especially radiology. And I think Shahrukh Babar has is a pioneer, and we applaud their effort and success. And I just have one question, Mr. Babar. As you know, that in mammography, the diagnosis really depends upon the quality of the mammogram. And one of the major issues, even in America, is the quality of the mammogram. And I'm sure you are paying attention to that aspect of the imaging, because artificial intelligence is CAD, is a detection. The diagnosis by a radiologist is made, and I'm a radiologist. I'm a professor of radiology here at University of Massachusetts. And so every physician should understand that while the machine can do the detection, the actual clinical diagnosis is made based on the patient's data, history, clinical and laboratory findings, etc. All put together will make the final diagnosis. But detection is the key to making the diagnosis, and that's where Mr. Babar's company is doing. I congratulate you. That's fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If I talk about, like, you are very right. So particularly if we talk about, so because in the machine learning you look for the pixels level. So there's a lot of, for example, even in the images, there's one type of image which is the raw images. Sometimes like patients share the raw images, radiologists, which is called you can say original image. Sometimes they share derived images, and which is definitely like much better form of the images. So we also felt a lot of, you can say imaging pixel level calibrations. So along with the AI, calibration was also the same level of challenge for us. And Alhamdulillah, we have developed our own calibrations algorithms. We actually bring all images through our patent pending algorithms on the same level. And then actually our AI and ML works on that. And you're very right. Based on the pixel value, making decision is definitely is you compromise until unless you also integrate with other patient history, like for example, skin thickness, etc., and other parameters. So they will also helps in the final decision making. So it's through the multi-omic data, and in the cancer side, so we are also taking care. So definitely we are trying to grab data where we can get of metadata of the patient and definite medical regime of the patient. In the future, we are planning, so we will also consider those data as well along with the decision making.
Very great job.
Mr. Sarwat, let me just quickly invite our panelists for the session today and then hand over the session over to you to continue the discussions. There are some questions in Q&A. I have some questions that I can post in the chat box, and then you can continue from there onward. But it gives me great pleasure to invite our panelists for today, Dr. Khan Siddiqui. Dr. Khan Siddiqui has, his fame is for doing a revolutionary transformation in the technology of medical imaging by creating the world's first and probably still only portable MRI machine. So magnetic resonance imaging is very, very challenging. And it's important to understand that MRI, one of the challenge with MRI is having enough resolution to get quality imaging. that we sometimes measure as the strength of the magnet, and we call it, Tesla, 1.5 Tesla, 1 Tesla, or 3 Tesla. So the challenge is not just taking some magnet and putting it portable, but challenge is to keep it where the resolution remains clinically relevant, that you can still make a diagnosis based on what you're seeing, and not just getting some pixels on the computer. That's, anybody can do that. So I understand, I don't know this very well, but I understand that Dr. Siddiqui must have gone through challenging on redesigning some of the equipment, so to make it portable, and completely rethinking some parts of the machine so that it can be miniaturized and made portable, and make a package solution. And it is still mind-boggling for me to think, how the magnet creates the whole loop around the brain in such a portable way. Even the open MRI is like a whole room or a hall to do an imaging without having to have a full loop around the head or part of the body. So I would kindly invite Dr. Siddiqui to briefly introduce himself and tell us his perspective of future and role of artificial intelligence and future of healthcare technology. Please go ahead, Dr. Siddiqui.
Thank you, Danish. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Dr. Sarwat, nice to see you again. It's been a long time. So as you know, I trained at Aga, and Dr. Sarwat used to be there. So it's been a long time. I'm a radiologist, as I think most people know already. Did my med school in Aachen and then trained at NYU. I've been into technology and initially started in software development a long time ago, and I kind of have evolved over there. Academically got interested into artificial intelligence in around 2004, 2005 timeframe. Started Johns Hopkins' first AI division, and then got recruited by Microsoft. So I moved to Microsoft in 2008 to start their first healthcare AI division. And then, have been in industry since for a long time. I came on board to Hyperfine as a chief medical officer and chief strategy officer to help get the device through, completion, regulatory approval, and then commercial scaling. It was a pretty daunting challenge. The whole idea of the device to take a scanner to the patient bedside was the initial vision that was started in 2014 by Dr. Jonathan Rothberg. He's a very famous geneticist in the United States. And he himself had went through personal issues in which he had to get MRIs multiple times and was frustrated in how cumbersome it was, and he wanted to figure out how to disrupt it. So he put together a team of brilliant scientists and engineers to go figure this problem out. So when you say bring the scanner to the patient bedside as your requirement, the first requirement actually becomes how do you get through a door, right? So that defines your size of your device, right? Because it has to go through a patient door, and then you realize that once you have to do that, then you have to pretty much rethink everything, right? So, and that's how the team started. Pretty much every single component on the device was built in-house. So we had to solve, number one, how do we safely put a magnet in a room and move it around in hallways, so that a patient walking next to it with a pacemaker is not going to do anything. So we had to limit what is called a 5 Gauss line to about 5 feet. So the scanner itself is about 33 inches. But the 5 Gauss line is around 5 feet, so that there's no interference for any electronics around it. And for that, it required redesigning and rethinking of the magnet architecture. So we actually, even to do that, we couldn't outsource or find any magnet industrial process already available that couldn't do that. So we had to reinvent how to manufacture a magnet. So the robot that makes the magnet was designed by us, and the entire process on how to create a magnet was also invented, designed by us. Now we have over 285 patents on this technology because it had to rethink everything. The gradient coils that are used to generate images had to be rethought again. The other big problem was when you move from room to room, power requirement, right? So the going towards permanent magnet was because we couldn't afford to have electromagnet, because that requires significant power and a lot of other issues that happen with it. And so now the power consumption of this is same as any kitchen appliance. So a blender in your kitchen probably uses more power than the scanner does that is sitting behind me here. So a lot of these things had to be invented and figured out. And then obviously at the end of the day was image quality and my expertise in artificial intelligence and image reconstruction and signal processing that went through with the engineers to really think through how we rethink image reconstruction when you have a low field MRI and generate diagnostic quality images. So the entire system, there's no other server rack or anything like that to do processing. Everything is happening on the device itself. Took a while, about 6 years to solve all these problems and get the device through FDA. And now, as of yesterday, we are in 47 locations, including the Aga Khan University got deployed 2 weeks ago. In Africa and about 44 or so sites in the US.
Wonderful. Professor Sarwat, please go ahead and take over.
Thank you. Dr. Siddiqui, so what parts of the body that's your wonderful invention images?
Our initial clearances for neuroimaging, so it's all brain imaging. It's all from newborn all the way to adults. And we are working on our other body parts, extremities, cervical spine, and even more in the future.
Right. There is a bigger than yours machine available for the knee MRI, which is significantly bigger. But this is great. Well, nice to see you again. Any other questions from either of the presenters, please?
Yeah. So let me start with one question, and then we have a bunch of questions in the Q&A box, Professor Sarwat, and I can post some more in the chat box. There are already a couple in the chat box, and we can invite some of our other members here also to make comments or questions. We have the chair of our research committee here,
Dr. Bhatti, can I request that you please continue because you know the continuation, and okay. I'm fine with that. Please, all right. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. So let me start with the, some basic question, Shahrukh, because many of us are not very familiar with the daunting task of creating a computer software, artificial intelligence that can recognize abnormality. So, the questions of, you mentioned a little bit on that, but I would like you to explain that a little bit more about how much data do you need to train an AI once you have a question? What quality of data is needed? You need to have a uniformity of data if you're gathering from multiple centers. How do you create a standardization of that data? How much work is that? And are there certain questions that are easier to ask from the data as compared to other questions which are much more harder to ask? Do you want to take that? You're muted, Shahrukh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that is a good question. Where AI comes, so the very first question always come about data. So that's a fuel for AI. And I think for the AI, you cannot say you cannot limit, you need this amount of data to train a well-performing model, actually. Actually, it depends on the different factors like quality of data and quantity of data. Like for example, if you have a small set of data, but features are very well defined and the quality of data really amazing, then you can get much better performing algorithms. Sometimes you have a lot of data, but features are not very well defining and labels are not, data quality is not good. So definitely that you may not be able to get some good performing AI results. So actually, instead of the quantity, quality of data, you can say matters a lot, particularly in the deep learning. Of course, the ideal case is you have a quality data and the quantity data, particularly when we are talking about, so we, in our systems, we are talking about 100,000s of data and images. And but particularly there are systems, so they are trained on the 40 to 50,000 images for different purposes, so they are performing very well. So actually this depends the use case or quality and quantity of the data that you are using, and what's your use case for that.
Thank you. Dr. Siddiqui, let me ask a question from your side. Again, talking about the kind of the challenges with the data in creating something. One, as you know, one of the big breakthrough in AI in neuroimaging have been this AI-based decision model for perfusion and mismatch with a acute stroke, and and that is now available in US for many centers to purchase. But rest of the world feel challenged because there are a few questions. Is that data equally applicable to another population, such as Pakistani population? Are the cost the same, or is it going to be cost prohibitive and entry to barrier? So there are a lot of time discussions that happens about homegrown solutions. What challenges do you see, if you want to replicate a process that has happened before, such as acute thrombus related AI imaging analysis, if you want to rebuild it in-house somewhere in Pakistan? What kind of warnings, advice, suggestions you will have for groups like those in Pakistan?
Yeah, I think the short answer, engage Shahrukh to go build it for you. But anyway, no, I think Shahrukh talked about a lot of this stuff. I think the biggest problem with AI, as you said, in data, and what happens is if you don't have all the possible use cases and all the possible scenarios covered, then you get into generalizability problem in AI, which what I mean by is that it works great based on this institution's data it was trained on, but you take it outside to some other institution, the model just doesn't work. There's a famous model for dense breast that was built at Mass General Hospital in Boston. When they deployed them, they had 96% accuracy detecting breast cancer. But when it was deployed to Brigham Women Hospital, which is a few miles down the street, the accuracy dropped to 12%. And it was just because of differences in modalities. They had two different systems. One had hologic system, other one had a GE system for mammography, and there was enough differences in the pixels that the model just didn't train properly. So the whole idea of generalizability requires that you have pretty robust data, different genders, different races, different equipment, different imaging techniques to be able to train it. And there have been solutions to address that, and most AI vendors are doing that, which is called local optimization. So what happens is the base model that, for example, Shahrukh has trained can be retrained or supplemented or optimized using local data. So some AI vendors actually, when deploying it, they ask like, hey, can give us some data that is already there, and let us optimize the model before we do implementation. So as part of implementation process, they go through local optimization. So that's how people are dealing with it. This problem is not unique to Pakistan, it's unique to everywhere. If a certain equipment or certain way of practice was not in part of the original data set, you will see brittleness in the model in those scenarios. To build your own model, I think the fundamental thing needed is significant data. And as Shahrukh said, right, you need thousands and thousands, not hundreds of cases. MGH did a great study that showed that for each feature, you need to get 99% accuracy, you need 1,048 data sets. And if you're looking for, let's 100 features in a mammogram, multiply that by 1,000 each, right? So you're talking about 100,000 million data sets, which is just becomes impossible. And there are techniques we use to supplement data, augment data as part of the training processes to address those issue of training. I'll give you an example. So when we were doing in Microsoft a training model to recognize human anatomy for Xbox Connect, the gaming console, we used AI to train the model. When we looked at how would it work out of the box without requiring a 6-year-old or 5-year-old to train the model, we realized we needed 1 billion data sets. That's 1/7 of the world population we had to use to train. That's just not possible, right? So we have to come up with innovative ways on how we're going to train the data and augment data to create those. So we actually created synthetic human data sets from the 5,000 engineers that we had in Microsoft and trained the model using synthetic data. And that's another trend that is going on right now. I hope I'm answering the question, but I think once you have enough data set, then you need folks like Shahrukh's team to help you train the model. But ideally, I would recommend if there are existing models, work with those vendors to locally optimize them because it's much easier to implement them.
If I may comment here, I think general approach to artificial intelligence is that there is a product, and then it's also like a kitchen. Whatever happens in the kitchen is extremely difficult and discouraging and can be negative. But we try to present the better side of the artificial intelligence, to some extent minimizing the difficulties and to some extent exaggerating the advantages. And that is the only way that subscription to artificial intelligence will occur. Because if we were to talk about all the difficulties, then it'll be too discouraging for anybody to either become interested or investing in it. So, like Mr. Babar Shahrukh has presented the ability of the diagnosis, etc. It's a little bit padded, all the positives, and little bit deducted all the negatives, so that the difference becomes tremendous. But for scientists, for educated people, it is important that in order to push the artificial intelligence, so that people will develop the level of understanding that people at the forefront have, you have to dress the data and dress the result in such a way that it becomes palatable. Otherwise, it's just like, if you go to a mithai shop, if you see the mithai, it's so wonderful. If you go to the kitchen, how it is made, you will never eat it. So I think that's what the artificial intelligence is at the current time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let me
exactly.
invite.
One thing, sorry. Dr. Khan mentioned, like, there are every year there are a lot of research paper published in the universities. So where people, like, you can say they have breast cancer diagnostics, AI algorithm, etc. But you will find very few companies they are doing breast cancer in the commercialization. So what's the difference? So hundred of, I think, paper published each year, but why there are very few companies are there? The challenge is that because when for the research purpose, so for 6 months or 1 year, you train on very particular set of data, and your model works fine with that data with 99% accuracy. So if you take that model in the real environment, so it will be failed there. So because of this data limitations, because of this data diversity. Other is that, and definitely in the universities, like we focus on the AI and model and interview layers, and we don't take care of data calibrations because we don't take care like the data diversity and the data definitely logistics. Like for example, I cannot give AI model to the radiologist. You have to write this code and you have to upload the data. So actually, I have to give him the complete workflow because radiologists, they don't even like to one extra click. So they hate it. So that's
All right,
why.
let's not start a radiology war here. Let me invite the chair of our research committee, Professor Mustafa Siddiqui. Mustafa, bhai, please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Mr. Babar and Dr. Khan Siddiqui. That was a great talk, Shahrukh, and excellent, very interesting comments by Dr. Siddiqui. I'm a movement disorder specialist, and I'm involved in deep brain stimulation surgery. So Dr. Siddiqui might be familiar with that, but in that we use artificial intelligence at the extreme level. So we are trying to look at subthalamic nucleus and substantia nigra. We are not talking about big structures, big regions in MRI. And so I've been involved in that, looking at each area where we are stimulating. And it's fascinating how AI has really helped in radiology. So now my question to both of you is more, I would like you to wear the hat of a visionary now. You guys are visionaries, and you guys are so a public service hat. And one of our goals from all of these seminars and through these research meetings and all that is to really bring together like-minded people, and how we can. And at the end of this, there's going to be a white paper which is going to be presented to all who's who in the Pakistani government and medical field, and hopefully we will be able to publish that in a journal also. So my question to you is that how would you envision using AI in terms of big data? So my thought about big data, which is a term frequently used, is that COVID-19 is a great example where we should have dashboards like Johns Hopkins has created for their site. We can have tuberculosis dashboards. We can have all sorts of different dashboards where public health officials, I mean, there's a system where they get reported there, and public health officials get an alert that, you know, those are red areas. So I think COVID-19, you know, as they say that never waste a good crisis. So COVID-19 can really help develop such types of things, and people like you guys can really help Pakistan in that regard. So I would like to have comments from both of you on this topic.
Maybe Shahrukh, you can go first, and then Dr. Siddiqui can follow.
I think Dr. Siddiqui can go first, and I can be second.
Yeah, so Dr. Siddiqui, thank you for the great question. I think the whole idea of, or the promise of AI really is to help increase accuracy, speed to diagnosis, and eventually patient outcomes, right? So you have to look at anything you're doing in that context. Like, is the solution you're thinking about, or problem you're thinking about, what is the problem you're trying to address? And AI and big data related analytics are really the tools to achieve those solutions to those problems, right? So I always think about, you know, spend time understanding the problem. Like, should be spending 80% time is understanding the problem first before you get to actually devising your solution. A lot of people, you know, jump to solution first and have not thought through what the problem is and how it needs to be applied. And as I said, right, big data and AI are those applications. So there's a lot of things happen, right? Even in the incubators that I work on, in the startups I, you know, invest in, or I'm on the board of, all of us have restarted and rethought how can we contribute into the COVID scenario. So literally, when, you know, even in our company, when as the pandemic was coming in, we started thinking about, you know, what are the potential, you know, needs. Will somebody be calling us for a scanner? And we started getting calls for a device, and to rethink how to implement that stuff. So we did a few things, and I'm just giving you some examples in context of what can be thought through. So number one is quickly identifying disease treatment pathways, right? So a particular thing that happens using data and AI purposes. So having the infrastructure ready, so when you have some kind of a pandemic or some kind of an emergent problem, are you able to turn around treatment options using machines to quickly predict and flush through hundreds and hundreds of options for a particular treatment maybe. Prediction is another good example, right? So if you can predict what's going to happen a few weeks in the future, you can think about lockdowns and all the other things in the pandemic context, or even other kind of disease prediction concept, and you can plan accordingly and optimize your resources to handle those things. And obviously, you know, speed to diagnosis becomes a big issue when you have decrease in resource availability, be it in an acute care setting, be it in a population level setting. AI and big data tools can help operationalize that stuff. So for example, what the map you talked about, the Johns Hopkins data analytics, what it did was it really helped communities understand what is happening to the pandemic, how it's expanding, and how potentially it can be affecting them. So if a community could see surrounding areas seeing higher numbers, they could get ready and start to do something about it. So I think those kind of use cases in which it is figuring out how to do disease prediction, figuring out how to quickly come up with a treatment option, figuring out how to operationalize and optimize your resource allocation for a particular problem using AI and big data is where we're going to see more and more innovation happening. Obviously, at the individual level, it'll happen, but a lot more at the population level, a lot more at the community level solutions that you're going to be seeing coming out of it. Shahrukh, you want to say some words too?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. And definitely, like, you know, the big data is, if you talk about the big data, and definitely it's very helpful. Like, if you have a huge amount of data and you cluster them, you make the grouping, and based on the grouping, it helps you making the decisions, right? You identify some pattern, and definitely it helps you to make some decisions. And unfortunately, like what I have seen in Pakistan, so actually, particularly the COVID, even in the other healthcare system, so we don't realize the importance of the data. So actually, it's saving the data, storing the data, that is the least, you can say, in priority for the hospital, just to save the hardware space. And the COVID, like for example, a lot of data being generated from the hospitals and patient level, mostly in the hard form. And there's no centralized way, like we can have all this data in the centralized way. Like the use case I was also interested in, Like initially, if you see the COVID infect different individuals, the extent they're different. Like for example, in the same house, two brother, one is more severe and one is like with the maybe no symptoms or little symptoms. So if we have some data of the biological data of some physical activities of the eating habits of the some kind of genetics data, and if we can make a predictions of the based on the human data, if this human get exposed to the COVID, so what severity of the COVID may you can say that this person can have. Like if we have such, if we classify, if we make such system based on this data, so definitely like we can take tests, and those individuals and doctors, those have high probability of the strong immune system, they can fight better against COVID infection. So we can bring them in the front line to just to fight with the COVID and just interact with the COVID patient. So definitely like the big data, and the good thing is now data is coming. I think the COVID in each year, you can say maximum papers come like in the publish on topic of the COVID, and a lot of data is coming. A lot of you can see new features, new application people are developing, and I hope some AI based solutions will come. They will definitely, as Dr. Saab said, they will also predict like where this is going to be like outbreak, so they can have planned smart lockdown even before. So yeah, big data is very important. Like if we have really centralized archiving for that, and definitely that can save a lot of our efforts and a lot of lives in future.
Professor Sabat, let me just involve a few more people. We're running out of time, and then I'll circle back to you. We can stay here longer and keep talking, but some people may have to drop off. I would like to also invite my co-chair, Dr. Shahid, for his comments. But Shahid bhai, if you give me just 1 minute, let me request Professor Atalullah Shah. He has a strong interest in collaboration as a vice chancellor of the university in Gilgit. With our speakers and Shahrukh, Babar. So Professor Atalullah, if you want to unmute yourself and share your invitation and your interest in collaboration, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Danish, and thank you, Dr. Babar. It was really very fascinating to listen to the doctors. I'm a civil engineer by profession, but certainly my daughter is a doctor, so I have deep interest in it. Actually, we have been developing the AI platforms at Karakoram University, and we are recently establishing a high-tech lab with the University of Central Asia. And at the same time, we have started the medical technology program, because I'm very interested to start with some radiology programs also in future. So how can Shahrukh Babar in this team help us? Because we have a very good AI team here, and we are working on kind of neural networks and things like that, and physiologics and many other things which are very close to AI. So how you can help us to establish this kind of diagnostics here, because this is certainly the very highly needed thing for this region. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, Tala Saab, definitely like we can help you. As I mentioned, like in the previously, like my education is in the healthcare, like in bioinformatics, and my expertise are in AI, and since years, like we are working in this, like you can say healthcare in the AI, and definitely work on the computer side, software side. So we mostly like have computer engineers, so they know very well programming. They know very well the AI architecture. They know very, but they lack the information on the medical side. They lack terms. They don't understand terms in the health side. The first challenge. So just to handle this, actually, in our office, mostly our AI engineer are bioinformaticians. So their expertise are in artificial intelligence, and they definitely like along with there we can guide your teams, and we can give them sessions, so we can connect with them some hospitals local here, and like we can collaboration with them, so we can develop some applications just for our local population as well as global population as well, and we can help along with the AI, like what is a DICOM, how you will gather the data, what are the challenges like we have faced like in the past years, and we can definitely guide and help in those. and just to make some fruitful and helpful product coming out of your lab.
Thank you, Shahrukh.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. My pleasure. We will continue. I've given my email ID. Danish Saab, I'll be great if you could share with Shahrukh Saab. Thank you. My pleasure.
definitely, Professor Saab, and then thank
Same
you for
here.
joining. It's a pleasure having you here. You know, one of the focus of Merit is underserved areas, and I think there's a lot of support needed for your work in Gilgit. We would love to collaborate with you on the education side beyond AI. I will reach out to you and connect with you and see what opportunities are there for us to collaborate and support your efforts. And we would also love to have you as a speaker to see what vision you have about medical education. I think medical technicians and techs are a huge need in Pakistan. There is just not enough. There are more physicians than techs in Pakistan in many different areas. And it's great that you are working in that area. Let me go on and invite my co-chair, my mentor, advisor, Dr. Shahid Rafiq, for his comments, questions. Shahid bhai, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Danish. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My question is basically both with Dr. Khan and Shahrukh, is that because we are talking about scarcity of data in Pakistan, it's not available, it's not stored, it's not unified, it's not digital. So maybe I missed how Shahrukh had done that, utilize or got that data for breast cancer. So that's one part of it. And second part is that because I'm a vascular neurologist and stroke specialist, so we were interested in rapid AI. I'm sure Dr. Khan knows about it and Shahrukh as well. We were interested if how can would we get a indigenous rapid AI, or we collaborate with international or already existing, which would be very expensive model to bring rapid AI in Pakistan?
Okay. Definitely. Like as I mentioned, like in Pakistan, so there's no particularly standardization of the storing the data, unfortunately. And recently, like from the few years, so the PACS concept has been implemented in the local hospitals. So now they started storing at least for sake of the 3 years, and they delete the data after the 3 years. And initially we had a lot of problem to get data from the Pakistan. So actually we made some collaboration in the United States. We made collaboration in the UK and Netherlands with our startup factory and local. Then we got recognized by the local hospitals, etc. So actually first we made the mechanism. So we gave them our own tools, which were, you can say, there just to remove all patient data, remove from them, and like anonymize the data, and only like give some fake identity to those images. So because the patient data is definitely is a key, and for any hospital, for any data provider. And then we established our cloud data storage, a cloud DICOM server we established, and we give access to all different partners and with the help of IBM. So IBM gave us the free credits for that. And we gathered all this data from our partner, from stakeholders globally. And then definitely, and in the house for this, the big amount of data, and you need very high power GPU machines. So definitely we have GPU machines, but we are using IBM cloud, like high-tech GPU machine just to process of that data. So now the good thing is that in the Pakistan, mostly hospitals, now they are very much familiar with the PAC system. Now they started realizing the importance of the data. And now we're also getting interest from the hospitals. So after post 3 years, they would like to utilize our PAC system as a cloud, as a backup for that data. So now we are getting locally data as well, as based on after this 3.5 year and 4 year of reputation. And definitely now we are in hospitals, and now like we are getting that momentum. Initially it was very difficult. Now it has become relatively easy for us.
So until that time, when the local data is available, you talked about the international collaboration. Is that data valid or replicable in Pakistan for breast cancer detection?
As I mentioned before, like particularly if you say there are very few imaging machines like Fuji, Hologic, like Siemens, there are very few like globally, like they are the machines. So machine to machine data little bit vary, okay, on the pixel value when you see that. And definitely like geographical region race, they also impact on the anatomy of the data as well. So the first challenge, like for example, like having the one machine and training on one machine, even the two qualities, raw data or you can say process data of the same machine. So it was giving the different results. So then we had the problem like different machines, like maybe in the same hospital, so there was diversity. So actually, our first challenge just to make some calibration scores are just to bring all these data on the same lines and then train our AI and machine learning models. So with the help of our calibration code, so we fixed this problem, you can say to high extent. And then we got you can say local data. Then we further fine tuned our algorithms, and that minimize this challenge, this calibration of all this data and all this actually.
Thanks, Shahrukh. Your comments, Dr. Siddiqui, on this challenge? You're mute.
I think Shahrukh is, more expert in status of data access in Pakistan. But, again, I'm sure once you've trained the model with available data sets, right? Even in the US, everybody starts with publicly available data through NIH or some other institution, and then they build their base model around this. And then they go after getting special data from institutions, hospitals, private sector to optimize their models and improve the accuracy. So again, the way AI models are built, it's not just one time, right? You keep training it, you keep improving it, changing the parameters around it to do it. And as you go and expand into different regions, you try to get supplemental data from those regions. So once you've already trained in thousands and thousands of data set, then to optimize it, you don't need more thousands data set. You can do it at a smaller data set. I think that's how you would go in. Regarding your question, Dr. Rafiq, about Rapid or Viz AI, there are two different platforms for stroke management right now. It's really how it comes into is how a company can enter into a different country, right? So it's really convincing those vendors who build those solutions to that there is enough market in Pakistan and what the regulatory pathway is. I mean, typical classic product commercialization roadmap is identifying the key opinion leaders in particular region, making sure they understand what it is, getting them to do some local validation of what tool you're building. In the meantime, going through regulatory process, building your marketing plan, identifying distributors or sales channel and how you're going to position it, and then you launch in that particular region. So, and it gets really hard. I mean, I'm doing that for Happifine. So realizing it is that not many companies come in within 6 months of building a product to Pakistan. So there are very different expectations of the Pakistan communities. Like people are like, where, I want to call my friend in UK and ask what they're doing with the scanner, and they realize the scanner doesn't exist in UK yet, right? So we have to go through different challenges and really treating Pakistan almost as as I would do in the US. And it has been really interesting as we are doing an initial discussion with key opinion leaders. My team's comment was, this is no different from talking to somebody in the US, right? The questions being asked are the same that Hopkins will ask, Stanford will ask. There's no, this concept of, some kind of inferior product or something would work in emerging market. That's gone, right? Everybody wants not only to do same as developed world is doing, but also leapfrog it, right? So when we have calls with folks in Africa, they want to read leapfrog what US and UK, Canada, and everybody else is doing. They want to do something even more than that. So the quality of product and quality of service provided has gone up. So I think I would encourage talking to Rapid folks and Viz AI folks to really help them understand how big the market is. I think the issue is going to be like, is there established stroke program in Pakistan, or what's the plan to doing that, and how big that market looks like, and how can we make a dent in that? I think there's some infrastructure related things needs to happen. Can people afford TPA or mechanical thrombectomy? And I was talking to somebody at Indus Hospital in Karachi. They get tons of stroke patients, but they don't have any way to do mechanical thrombectomy, and TPA costs 1 lakh rupees for one dose, and the patients coming to that hospital can't afford it, right? So then that's great. You can do diagnosis as software, but if you don't have the infrastructure to manage the patient, that becomes a bigger challenge. I hope
Cool.
that answers your question.
So one of the questions that have been asked before, and I'm also very curious, Shahrukh, is that whatever you can share, what other projects you're doing on imaging for artificial intelligence, what other areas, and are there projects outside of medical imaging that you're doing or thinking about, whatever you can disclose at this point?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Like we would love to disclose it, and definitely, like we would love if any like a stakeholder they can help. So they want to make some synergy. We can find some synergy with them, and we will love that, and we are open for that. So currently, definitely, first we launched the breast cancer, and in the past, I have very close affection with the breast cancer. So that's where we work. We have been working on the breast cancer since 3.5 years, and then we launched it. That is in post trial. Along with that, in a couple of weeks, we are launching chest X-ray. Post COVID, you can say, and we realize the importance of the chest X-ray as well. So along with the COVID detection, so now we are adding 14 different modalities, and the purpose is that because as I mentioned, when you train some AI model, so AI model itself cannot be delivered to the radiologist, and he cannot play with AI model. So they need AI model integrated with their current workflow, radiology workflow. So actually, delivery mechanism is lacking globally. So that's why we actually developed this complete delivery mechanism first. So our whole delivery mechanism is there. So now we have to just, for example, we have trained our AI models for the breast cancer. So we enabled the CAT, computer-aided diagnosis for the CAT first. Now we are training our AI model on the chest X-ray with the 14 different diseases. And then we will enable those AI model at the back end over this delivery mechanism of the radiology workflow. So quickly, a solution will be available on that. So along that, so recently, as I mentioned, so we got a government grant. So we are working on a vascular surgery, peripheral vascular surgery planning through MR images and through different patient history. And based on that and the diagnostics and you can say surgery planning through AI, so that will reduce false decisions by the surgeons of pre-operation, pre-surgery. And along with that, definitely we are working in multi-omic data, and multi-omic data we have bioinformatician, PhD, MPhil in bioinformatics. So we are working on different omics data. Like when you talk about the different omics data, your genetics data, as myself, bioinformatician, and Alhamdulillah in Pakistan, first R&D center, industry level R&D center we have established. And we are working on different OMS data. We are identifying biological patterns or biological, you can say, stakeholder and definitely biological markers. And based on those markers, like training AI and machine learning, so we are going toward the prediction of the disease instead of the just diagnosis of the disease. So currently, company focus and definitely after that in our pipeline is definitely for brain scans and for stroke and different brain diseases diagnosis and dental. That is in our pipeline. So we are planning to start working maybe end of 2021 or maybe start of 2020.
Could you share any information on how many centers are using your PACS system delivery model that is uploading or feeding the imaging data into your cloud server? And what your plans are expanding that? And are you going to stay with PACS, or will you look at integration with their complete electronic health record system for other bioinformatics projects that you're mentioning about?
So sorry, can you please come again? I was
So
having
you said you have a cloud
issue.
server where you can feed in the PACS data. How many institutes in Pakistan are plugged into your cloud server for feeding you to that imaging data? And what's your plans or expansion on the imaging data side? And then do you have plans for integrating into their electronic health record for other data for bioinformatics studies?
Yeah, exactly. So currently, 5 hospitals here in Pakistan. So we are running the trials. So that's why we are giving access to very limited hospitals, and 5 hospitals. So they're already their PACS system already linked with our PACS system, and they're directly connected with the modalities. When X-ray happens on the modality, that comes to the local PACS. The local PACS sent to our cloud PACS, which also stores data. And after after like permission of the radiologist. If the radiologist doesn't want to store on the PACS, it doesn't store there. And then AI analytics then will result we send back to the local PACS systems for the radiologist. Currently 5 hospitals, they are connected with us, and now we have well tested over complete, along with the AI, we already have very well tested over complete workflow from DICOM viewer to backend cloud packs, from cloud packs to AI algorithm. So everything is working smooth. So now we are planning to add more hospitals in Pakistan. And for the multi-omic data and for bioinformatics data, and definitely like once we launch, so first we will integrate with the EHR. And the purpose is that like when patient comes to for the one disease, for example, patient come with a one infection, and in the like a health record, you actually get EMR, you get some basic information of the patient. So over AI algorithms will get those information from the health record in process, and we will predict if this patient may have developed some other diseases. So definitely we will recommend some more tests, and like we will suggest some more tests, and that will be integrated with their EMR system. And then we are planning to integrate with different genetic system provider, genetic you can say sequence companies. They give the data, so we're also planning to integrate with them as well.
Very good. Thank you so much. Where can people continue to follow you for your work and learn more about you and how to connect with you if they want to collaborate and partner or have ideas?
Okay, well, definitely. First, my email address is if I can write, or I can also like shahrukh.babar@xylexa.com. Otherwise, you can follow. Let me write here. Or people can follow our Facebook page and LinkedIn page and website. So we also update there as well.
And Dr. Siddiqui, thank you so much for joining as a panelist. We are looking forward to your session and learning a lot more about your work, and we'll have a lot more questions for you at that point. I will take final comments from Professor Sarwat and then invite in the end Dr. Uzair to close the session. So Professor Sarwat, please go ahead.
Actually, I will be, with a lot of interest, I've been listening to the question, and I have some comments and the role, I think the role of Pakistan at this time in artificial intelligence is be the place where the international companies can come for data analysis, data working, because that's a very lucrative market where India, I think, has like what, several $1 billion worth of income from this. Pakistan had an income of about just over $1 billion last year, and it's emerging. So more labs where data can be collected can be a source of tremendous, not only education, but also prosperity in Pakistan. Secondly, my question to Mr. Shahrukh is that you have addressed the wealthiest group of Pakistanis abroad, doctors in America, and do you need any investment in your company that if somebody wants to invest, and what is the capitalization of your company? Thirdly, the education in Gilgit, Professor Ataullah, I have established several educational program in radiology as residents and technology. I'd be very happy to help you. And in fact, Central Asia University, I know Mr. Qasim Lakha and Dr. Naqvi, who are leading that Central Asian University. I know them personally. So I'd be happy to help you out on that. The other question is about the work in Pakistan. I know Mr. Shahrukh Babar knows that there are some low-hanging fruits in Pakistan, especially with respect to diagnosis, treatment, and management of tuberculosis, for example. And it is not only the diagnosis, it is the compliance with the treatment that is a huge problem in Pakistan. And there can be chatbots and other programs developed which can monitor, encourage the patients to comply with the with the treatment and their follow-up and the management and answer questions, a lot of questions about the ongoing disease, and similarly diabetes, hypertension, and stroke, etc. Then the other one last question to Mr. Babar and Dr. Siddiqui are you dealing with radiomics also in the artificial intelligence? Because radiomics is a part of data analysis where actually the quality and the location of pixels relative to each other have certain hidden information, which is the more emerging field in intervention in artificial intelligence that is coming to light. And last comment is that I, as a radiologist, use artificial intelligence day in and day out with a lot of detection, and we've been using it. I've been using it for last like 25, 30 years, starting with several applications. So with that, I'm gonna stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, quick comment before Shahrukh answer a couple of these questions raised by Professor Sarwat. I think Professor Sarwat will connect you with Shahrukh and Dr. Siddiqui so that as the chair of this new AI committee that we're forming, you can continue working with them, even after offline and on the work that you are developing in the artificial intelligence in Pakistan. They will be great advisors for us and collaborator in shape of Shahrukh. Shahrukh, if you want to answer some of those questions about investment needs and thoughts and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like very first, I think that's my most favorite question. Like you ask, so we need definitely radiologists because currently, like we are in starting the FDA, and now we are trying to move in the US market. That's, I think, for any entrepreneur, any company, that is always the ideal market to jump in. So now we are planning to jump in the US market, and definitely for jump in the US market, so we need some more collaborations with the radiologists, specialized radiologists. Those can definitely add a lot of weight to come in the definitely in the US market. And along with that, so now we are planning to get the FDA, and definitely FDA is not a low cost procedure. So now we are also like recently we opened our seed round, and just to get FDA and launch our product in the United States and the Europe as well. So yes, we are looking for a radiologist and just to onboard and to help us, and you can say find synergy with them. Yes, recently we opened our seed round, although we are in the due diligence with some investors in the US and UK as well. And sorry, I think I forgot the other questions. You chatbot for particularly to communicate with the tuberculosis, etc. So recently, like our hospital, they approached us, and they had like they are making some a doctor and tele medicine kind of application, and they approached us just to make some collaboration with them and the teleradiology, and along with the teleradiology, and if we give them a chatbot, because we work in AI and NLP, and we also give them the chatbot so who can integrate it with the system, who can give some quick responses, and definitely in the radiology. Definitely, like once if we develop such application or such module, so who can answer the healthcare any question, queries, and that can be pretty doable. And in our team, so they already have done chatbots in the past as well for pharmaceutical companies.
Incidentally, I am the oldest full-time practicing Pakistani radiologist alive.
All right, let's keep it that way. So, I will quickly wrap it up, and let me finally say that if anyone is interested in reaching out to Shahrukh in collaborating from APPNA side, from Pakistan side, please send us an email, apnamerit@gmail.com. We'll connect you with Shahrukh and make those connections, and that's our primary purpose of the sessions today. Let me invite Dr. Uzair to close the session with his closing remarks. Please go ahead, Dr. Uzair.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, to all of you, the team member who made this webinar successful, particularly Dr. Khan. I sent my request just a week ago, and he's kind enough, he rescheduled and everything, and participated. And, I was looking for this event for a very long time, really to bring all the people who have something. And I think we form a wonderful group. This is going to be an AI group, and particularly more so with the radiology, with the Dr. Sarwat, they can extend the mentorship. Dr. Siddiqui and the young one, like the Shahrukh, who have a lot of energy, local experience, and some sort of arrangement down the road. It could be just the information sharing or in any meaningful way. And once you develop the recommendation, we will be very happy to share with the all those who are involved in the policy or in the development. So that is going to be the way forward. Just two small comments. As Dr. Sarwat mentioned about the tuberculosis, trust me, now we have the latest state-of-the-art gene expert system in place in Pakistan to look for the even the what we call it rifampicin resistance. So the results are available, but the real challenge is to maintain, store that data. Just to share with you one real example, that's the community example. If you are in the group in a Pakistani physician, every now and then now the question are arising about the COVID vaccine, because you have to go and you can get the certificate. This is very important to all of you, because people are getting the immunization certificate and there is no immune response, which means the antibody is negative. And if they use that certificate to enter to the US, and unfortunately they are caught really having no antibody, no immunity, but generally we are always under the shadow of doubt that the people from developing countries, they are bringing with the fake certificate. So we have to address this issue. But unfortunately, they are sharing, they are issuing the certificate immunization, and there are vaccine failure. I don't know, because that's a chain. We can't label it. And again, we can collect some data about the safety, which is becoming very, very important in these days. So we are just using the data. We have a huge data available at this point in time, but I think it can be used. So I mentioned, and in this report, this AI and something, Dr. Sarwat, they can mention about these things, that the data is really an asset and we can use it for a very cost-effective solution. So with that, that's all from my side. Once again, I'm really grateful to all the participants, particularly who patiently, we exceeded the time and they just stayed on. So thank you very much to all of you. So that's all from my side. And I say goodbye to all of you and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Shahrukh, and thank you, Dr. Khan. It's a pleasure having
Thank you,
you on.
everybody.
Thank you.
Looking forward to
Lovely.
connecting.
You're most
Bye.
welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Bye. Allah Hafiz, everyone.
No.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, Walid, I think we can close the session.